Hello everyone, my name is Nick Infernus, and welcome to a long overdue reveals video for Transformers Legacy. Since I just ordered the final figure I need for Wave 5, I figured I might as well just get this video done and over with, since last week there was actually a stream that I didn't know about, where they did pipeline reveals for the last wave of this year. So, let's talk about the wave that's probably going to come out in the middle of the summer. Wave 6. I'll be honest, this doesn't look like it's going to be the best wave ever, but it does look like a fairly solid one. So, starting with core class, we have our new Dinobot, Scar. And as always, no elbows, because that's just kind of the thing that these Dinobots lack, I guess. Though, if I'm going to be honest, I actually really like the design of this guy. I've always loved the Ankylosaurus as a dinosaur. They're just dino tanks, and I just think that's awesome. Although I will admit, when I first saw this, I thought it was Snarl, and I thought, that's wrong. And then I realized, oh, no wonder it's wrong. That's not Snarl. And apparently this guy was an IDW, but he doesn't appear to be particularly accurate to IDW. He's got some Ford's Butterfly, though. I think this will probably be in the middle of the current Dinobots. Better than Grimlock and Sludge, but not as good as Slag or even Swoop. Okay, why is he the one that gets elbows? Like, don't get me wrong, I'm happy to see them here, but literally all the other Dinobots don't have elbows, but Swoop gets elbows. And also that bird mode is interesting, to say the least. Even though I'm kind of complaining about the fact that he gets elbows while the others don't, I'm still really looking forward to this. This looks like it has potential to be the best core class we've gotten, though he is going up against Bomb Burst, so we will have to see about that. And they're repacking Kingdom Starscream, which I am kind of glad they are, because this is a really good figure. Like, yeah, sure, it was very easy to find and all that, but considering that they did Skywarp and Thundercracker, I think it's nice that they make sure that the leader of the trio is readily available, just in case someone missed them, in case Legacy was the toy line where they started collecting. Then Deluxes. And if I'm being honest, this next figure is my most anticipated figure of this entire wave, and probably the next one as well. Beachcomber. I mean, come on, that's just perfect. Like, this is one of the instances where I looked at the G1 design, and yeah, that's basically perfect. Like, everything on this guy just screams jumped off the screen. And in general, I just think he has a really nice color scheme. Some nice blues, a little bit yellow and red. Dune buggy mode looks great, and apparently you can peg the gun onto the front to make a grill. I don't think he had that, but it's a nice detail regardless. Wheels are going to be rubber, so that's a nice little feature. And he's going to come with a parakeet from that Golden Lagoon episode. Yeah, if I'm being honest, don't be surprised if this ends up taking the #1 spot in the end of year ranking for Legacy, because this just looks phenomenal. And the next on the list, we have DevCon, a figure where this video took so long to come out that I actually had time to warm up to this. Like, don't get me wrong, this still looks a bit strange with his skinny thighs, which is not a trait that DevCon had in G1 to my knowledge. But it is pretty impressive that they were able to wrangle this out of the 86 Blur mold, especially because they were able to take the forearm kibble out of it, though he still does have some that's not as egregious. And even the feet don't look as weird as they did in that, in the Sunbow chart design. Though will say, I do wish they went for a slightly more saturated blue, maybe a darker one. But this does look nice, and I am definitely looking forward to getting this one. Then there's Axel Grease, who is disappointing, if I'm being honest. A Decepticon repaint of Scraphook, who was by far one of the weakest figures in Legacy Evolution so far, and this is going to look really out of place on my Junkion shelf. That could just be a me thing. This probably appeals to someone else a lot more. I just have a feeling that I know what to expect from this one. Here's hoping that they actually tighten up the arms and, keep them from popping off. Like, I know they come off at the arm joint there, but the elbows pop off all the time on Scraphook. Not as much as they used to, but they still do. And it's still really frustrating. But it's not frustrating? The fact that they're repacking Tarantulas. I know this was a bit of a hard figure to find for some people, Well, not necessarily for me, because at the beginning of the year I was actually able to find him at both the Walmarts that I go to. But if you missed him, you got another chance of getting him. And I actually did see what his Legacy Evolution packaging looks like. Looks pretty good. Honestly, I like the color scheme of Legacy Evolution a lot more than Legacy, which is kind of weird because purple is one of my favorite colors. But I don't know, something about the blue and green just appeals to me more. Then we have probably the weakest set of Voyagers in all of Legacy. Neither of these are bad. I'm not dreading either of these, but they're kind of just reworkings of already existing molds, which is kind of lame. Sure, that's what they did for Wave 5, but those were two really good molds. Like, fantastic molds. Both two molds that I'd be absolutely willing to put in the top tier. As for these two, they're both good, but I have a feeling that these will probably end up either at the bottom of the list or in the middle. At least if we're just talking about this wave. So let's start with Dirge. I recently messed with Earthrise Starscream again over the weekend, and it's a fun enough figure. It's not the best poser, and the transformation does have one step that can make it a bit of a pain, but I do like the jet mode. Though I will say this makes even less sense now that we have a character, where the nose cone is the head, but the nose cone's also on his back. So this has always kind of just been the conceptually inferior version of this mold because of the faux forming. And if you don't know what faux forming is, that's when they use fake parts to accomplish transformation. It's basically, what's an example I can use from Legacy? Yeah, if you look at Blitzwing, he has those little purple wings on his backpack. Those don't actually become the wings in jet mode. Those are wrapped around his legs. That's kind of what faux forming is. Someone else will probably explain it a lot better than I can. But yeah, the nose cone here doesn't actually become the head. So I am interested in owning a cone head, but I already know this is just going to be fine as is. I will say I do like the look of Nemesis Leo a lot more than Leo Prime. I've always liked Nemesis and she's of dull looking, but I do really like the metallic cyan claws. I almost said it differently. And they painted his eyes, folks. I don't know why this was so hard to do on Leo Prime if it was just like a budgetary thing, but like, why couldn't you have eyes? You guys can't see it, but I'm actually holding him right now. I actually have Leo Prime with me. It's like, I don't know what was so hard about painting this man's eyes in lion mode. Why was that so hard? Also, I love the fact that he's coming with a new gun. So, you know what? I'm actually looking forward to picking this one up. I'll just have to figure out where to put it, because I'm not entirely sure how I feel about putting him with my Maximals. Like, I know he has a Maximal badge, but these Nemesis repaints are notorious for being part of the evil side. Then we have our leader class. And if I'm being honest, this is kind of giving me the same reactions I'm noticing with a lot of Armada figures. Yeah, Armada Megatron. I'm noticing that whenever I look at these, whenever they're first revealed, I don't really know how to feel about them. It's kind of just oh, yeah, I guess that's correct. It's that kind of reaction. Now, to be fair, I did see a review of this today where I was both impressed and also a little worried about it, because I did notice maybe it could just be that person's copy because it was a stolen toy reviewer. Yes, I know, shouldn't watch those because they steal figures. But he did have the issue where you move the arm up, you move back down, and the shoulder comes with it. Like, the shoulder bends at that angle. I will say, when looking at the transformation, it does look very interesting for a tank former, especially seeing the arms go into the shoulder pylons and having a plate cover his face. Because when I first saw this in my previous attempts to record this video, I thought to myself, like, oh, don't tell me that's just the head chilling out the front with the face pointing down. There is a plate that covers up the face. And to my knowledge, this is accurate. I haven't seen Armada, so I wouldn't know. But honestly, this does look really nice. As does our commander class, Armada Optimus Prime. Now, funny story with this guy. I originally had him pre-ordered from Entertainment Earth, but when I saw that he was, you know, back in stock with pre-orders on Hasbro Pulse, I actually canceled that and pre-ordered him there because if I'm being honest, Hasbro Pulse more than Entertainment. But in all seriousness, this looks great. Again, the kind of thing where I see it, it's like, yeah, that looks right, and I just don't really feel comfortable putting my full thoughts on these until I get them in hand. Because it was kind of the same thing with like Starscream. I don't know if it was like the same with Hotshot because I remember thinking it was like, okay, top half looks good, bottom half looks like a mess, and then he ended up being the best deluxe of that wave. And then Starscream, same thing as Megatron Optimus, where I feel like I need to get them in hand first. And then we have the Titan class, which I honestly don't care because I have enough Titans as is. Like, there's a game store I go to that has the Gen Selects Guardian robot. I was telling the guy that works there, is like, yeah, I really want that mold, but it's like I already have Metroplex and the Arc taking up a ton of space, which that kind of sucks because the Nemesis does look pretty awesome. Like, say what you want about the robot mode, but that ship mode, just damn. Like, I would honestly want this figure for the ship mode alone, but I have absolutely no idea where I'd put it, especially because there's already a big chunk of space taken up by the two Titans I already have. So, if you want to get this, feel free. Just know that I probably won't be picking this up, and there's a very high chance that Deathsaurus will probably end up taking this one's place. Now let's go to the pipeline reveals that actually, inspired me to spice up the video a little bit. So we can talk about how excited I am for some of these figures. And this wave honestly feels like it might just be wave 6 again, where, interesting figures, but do note they didn't actually show the figures off, but I honestly don't know how to feel about most of these. There are a couple that I can give some feelings on because, well, a lot of them are repaints and retools. So let's start with Snarl. What do you want to bet that he's not going to have elbows? Like, let's be real here. Swoop is the only one of these guys who's gotten any elbows, and everyone else hasn't. That's never been a deal breaker for me, but it would just be nice to get at least more than one of these guys with that. Definitely looking forward to him, though. Then we have Deluxe Bombshell. Boy, man, I'm deaf. So, funny story. You know that Wave 5 figure I was telling you guys about in the beginning? That was Shrapnel. And I'll tell you that story when I make that ranking, which should be out either at the beginning of the next week or at the end of this one. But let's just say that as soon as pre-orders go up on Amazon, I am snagging a copy of Bombshell because I do not need to go through that hell again. I've also heard rumors that this is probably going to be retooled from from Shrapnel, but we shall see. I have a feeling this one's probably going to fly off shelves really quickly because Bombshell appears to be everybody's favorite Insecticon. And I mean, he does have a cool design, but I haven't really watched G1, so I can't really speak from experience. Then there's Strong Arm, who is certainly a character I wouldn't mind having, so I can, fill out my, I was going to say rescue bots, but that's a different thing. Fill out my emergency vehicles. Again, referencing rescue bots, I say that knowing that Chase is coming in the next year. Though I will say that I've heard some pretty nasty things about the character. Nothing that's like sexist or misogynist or anything, but just that she's very unlikable as a character. Which, I don't really take character into account when I buy these things. I kind of just see a figure in the main lines, like, I buy it. And then I rank it in a wave ranking. The next is Detritus, which that YouTuber that reviewed Armada Megatron keeps calling him Detrius for some reason, even though you can clearly see there's a T in there. It's like when people put that extra N in my last name. It's so annoying. I'm not revealing my last name here, but that is something that always happens, and it always annoys me to no end. But yeah, honestly, I wouldn't mind owning a Junkion repaint of Hound, though I will say I am kind of starting to wonder where that 86 Hound is that was leaked. Like, I could care less about Studio Series Hatchet, but come on, Hasbro, give me 86 Hound. At least give him to the fans before you reveal Detritus, because that would be kind of weird having it be like the other way around, be like a reverse Bumblebee Cliffjumper situation where Cliffjumper gets shown off first before Bumblebee. That's happened twice in the past 5 years, and I don't know how to feel about that. But yeah, if this ends up being like Detritus first, then Hound, that's gonna be weird. That being said, I do like the Siege Hound mold. I think because I got the Netflix War for Cybertron Hound, which, from what I'm hearing, is actually the worst version of that mold because the legs pop off sometimes. The panels in the legs. So hopefully that's not something that happens with, you know, these copies of it. And honestly, the mold does look nice. Then we have our first of 3 known Cyberverse figures, but for all we know, we could be getting more of these. Shadow Striker. Now, I remember in the original leaked listings, I don't know if those were referring to this or Shadow Strip, but I'm definitely more interested in this than that. I will say, given the Frankenstein vibes that she gives off, I'm kind of curious as to how they'll tackle this design in toy form. I don't know if they'll do like every part looks the same or if it'll just be like a multicolored vehicle. Either way, I'm interested. And I think it will be pretty nice to get more Cyberverse figures, even though I do like the actual Cyberverse Deluxe figures that I've gotten. It will be nice to have some that I'll actually want to keep around for, display purposes. Then I believe next is Voyagers. Yeah, it is Legend. I've heard rumors that this is going to be a Tarn retool, and if that's the case, I actually don't know how I feel about that. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that figure, but I just don't know how well it fits Bludgeon. Again, I'll have to see this one before I make any judgments, but let's just say I'm skeptical. And then we've got another Evo Fusion Junkion, a Voyager Trashmaster, and that name alone pretty much gives away that this is going to be a dump truck, which, not a lot of people have dump truck Transformers, so that'll be interesting for sure. The prototype that was leaked a little bit ago looks pretty interesting, though it was in green and purple, so obviously unfinished. And then lastly, Dreadwing. Yeah, the moment they revealed Skyquake, we saw this coming. Honestly, all I'm hoping with this one is that they find a way to swoop the wings down while also fixing all the problems that Skyquake has. Because, spoiler for that Wave 5 ranking video, that's probably one of the weaker figures of the wave. Like, don't get me wrong, he's not bad. He's actually really good. It's just when compared to all the other figures in the wave, he could have been better. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the new reveals. Definitely a lot to look forward to, especially with if I had to pick out what the highlights are for me in this upcoming wave, I'd probably say Beachcomber, Armada Megatron, and I'll even throw DevCon in there because he's definitely warmed up to me. And I'm definitely interested in seeing what Strong Arm and Shadow Striker look like because I'm very interested in seeing how they tackle those two characters. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for this reveals video. If you enjoyed, you know what to do. I'm not going to bore you with all the generic stuff. See you guys in the next video. Take care. Godspeed.